Today's music legend that you should know is the incredible Romanian-born pianist, Clara Haskil. I first became aware of her playing listening to recordings of Beethoven violin sonatas with the great Belgian violinist Arthur Grumio. But the piano playing really surprised me. I said, this is beautiful, beautiful piano playing. It's more than someone who's an accompanist. This is someone who's a great artist. And I looked up the name Clara Haskil. And I started doing some research on her. And I was just astounded at what I found out. She was born in 1895 in Bucharest into a Sephardic Jewish family. And her mom was a pianist and music teacher. And she had two other sisters who were both taking piano lessons. But Clara was only 4 years old at the time when a pianist from the Bucharest Conservatory came to the house and played a Mozart piano sonata. And Clara proceeded to sit down and duplicate it note for note on piano, having never had a piano lesson. I mean, this is astonishing from memory. And then she transposed it into other keys. Little four-year-old girl, okay? So people started becoming aware of the fact that maybe they had kind of a genius on their hands. She went on to study at the Bucharest Conservatory and then at the Vienna Conservatory, and then went to the Paris Conservatory, where she graduated with the first prize in 1915. So she started to have a career, and then she was struck by terrible, really severe scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine, and she had to spend the next 4 years in a full body cast to cure this problem. And she was a very beautiful young woman. This was a very, very difficult and painful thing to go through. Well, she came back afterwards and fought off some problems with stage fright and ended up having quite a career in Europe and the United States from the 1920s through the 1930s. And then World War II happened. And so she was still living in Paris, but Paris was occupied by the Nazis. And she had to flee to southern France. And it was very difficult. And at the time, she also suffered from double vision. It turned out there was a tumor on her optic nerve in one of her eyes. And her friend smuggled a physician as surgeon in and did an operation, which, thank God, saved her eyesight. So after World War II, she renewed her career, and she started playing with everybody, with all the most famous orchestras, and also as a chamber musician with people like Pablo Casals and Arthur Grumio, the violinist, and many more, and all the leading orchestras all over the world, and started making recordings. And she was most well known for Mozart, which she played transcendently. The thing about Clara was she had huge hands. I mean, my hands have long fingers. The average pianist hand can reach a 10th. Her hands, she could reach a 12th with her index finger, from her index finger to her pinky, and a 13th with her thumb to her pinky. She had incredibly long thumbs. And this ridiculous ability she had to memorize music and her amazing technique and musical sensitivity just made her an absolutely transcendent artist. She later moved to Switzerland and became very good friends with Charlie Chaplin, who lived there. And he said that she was one of the three geniuses that he had ever met. The other two were Winston Churchill and Albert Einstein. And they became very dear friends, and there are some photos and even some short videos of her walking with Chaplin. Unfortunately, there is no video of Clara Haskil playing the piano. This is crazy, but there are many great recordings, including many great live recordings, where she displays her virtuosic technique and full piano repertoire, everything ranging from Scarlatti to Rachmaninoff and Liszt and Debussy and Ravel. She played everything so faithfully and so amazingly, just incredible. And I just want to tell you two short stories from this pianist named Peter Furtwanger, who was a good friend of hers. She liked to practice on his piano in London. And so she came over there one day and stood outside his apartment and heard him playing this piece that he was composing. She never saw the music for it. He put it away and she came in and practiced. And 2 years later, when he saw her again, she said, "Oh, I really like that thing that you were writing." And she sat down and proceeded to play the first 4 pages of it, which is as far as he got that day, from memory, flawlessly. And he knew that she hadn't ever like bought a copy of it because it had stuff that he had just written and actually revised later. This photographic memory, and not even photographic, just memory for anything that she heard, to be able to play flawlessly upon hearing it once. And there's another story of her. She heard somebody play a very difficult piece by Liszt called Feu Follet at a private party, and she played it in a concert 2 days later, having never seen the music. She also learned the Brahms Piano Concerto in 2 days, one time for a performance that she played from memory, of course. So really outstanding musician. But one of the reasons why many of you haven't heard of her is that her life was cut short prematurely. In 1960, she was doing a concert tour with Arthur Grumio. Oh, and I have to mention to you that on these tours with Grumio, she sometimes would pick up the violin because she also studied violin for a few years. And apparently she was an incredible violinist. There's an account of her playing the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto flawlessly backstage at a concert where she was playing a concerto. She just grabbed someone's violin and blazed away at it. And sometimes she and Grumio would trade instruments because he apparently was a very fine pianist as well as one of the most famous violinists of the day. So she was doing a tour with Grumio, and she was in Brussels in a train station. And, she had kind of fragile health toward the end of her life and walked with a little bit of difficulty. She tripped and fell down the stairs and suffered many injuries, was taken to the hospital, and died a few days later. Her sister rushed to see her, and one of the last things she said, she held up her hands and said, "At least these were not damaged." So it's a very sad ending to a life, but a life that was filled with transcendent music making, incredible piano playing of the very, very highest order. And they established a festival in her honor in the town of Vevey in Switzerland, where she lived. And every 2 years, there is a competition, and some very famous pianists have participated and won this competition. And she's a really beloved person there. They even named a street after her. So I suggest that you really check out as much as possible the music of Clara Haskil. I've put a bunch of tracks of her sublime playing onto the Spotify playlist, and there are many things available to listen to.